Alright guys, so I haven't done a video for a while now. Figured I'd do one now. I do have the dashboard off right now, or at least a cover for it, because when you get classic plates for a classic vehicle and you don't do the emissions, they basically limit your mileage to about 1,000 miles per year, and that gets checked by this, and you have to write that down. So simple solution is just to unplug the speedo cable, which you can see it right there. That only works half the time anyway. The only thing that is not working fully in this truck is the stupid dash lights and dome light, which is supposed to come on when you pull it out the first click, and then the headlights for the second click. When you turn it over to adjust the brightness up, it just pops the fuse, so there's something shorting. The radio works and everything. I put a choke in it, which you could probably see me use when I started it, and that works really good. It's just a manual choke instead of the stupid vacuum choke. And the thing drives like a champ. We just filled the bed up to the brim with dirt the other day, and the suspension was just all clapped out, and it didn't even care the motor. It was just like driving it without the dirt in it. So it's a really good truck for what we're going to be using it to do. And I think we're going to go ahead and sell the red truck, which we did the motor rebuild video on. So yeah, I'm going to show you what I've got going on with the fuel system and all that good stuff underneath the hood. So we've got the heater working now, or I've got the heater working now. I got this really big battery. I don't even know if you guys have seen one this big before, but it's a really big battery. I got that one because the small ones that I was buying wasn't working out very well. New alternator, new charge controller, that works great. Starts really quick every time, just like now. This Autolite 4100 carb off of like a 50 or 60s Mustang is just not working very well. The secondaries do not open up because the vacuum bladder, or whatever you want to call it, right here, actually the tube that draws the vacuum pressure is above the butterflies, not under it. I don't know if that's on all carbs or if that's just too small or something, but it kind of seems like it wants to in certain timing positions, but yeah, it doesn't really have enough air flowing, I guess, to open that up. So I'm going to get a 500 cubic feet per minute 1403 Eldebrock, so that'll even match my air filter right there. I do have the Duraspark 2 in it. I didn't want to buy a connector, so I just did the little butt connectors and some wire. And I haven't bought a coil plug because that's the stock one. That's pretty much the condition of most of the wires on the truck. Pretty bad. And I've got that really nice coil so I can open the plug gap up for more spark. And the vacuum advance works really good, except for when you hit the gas like right away. Like if you just floor it from idle, it turns off too fast, and then it doesn't like it. Well, it runs fine, but it just doesn't have that much power if you do that. The fuel system, I showed you the fuel gauge. You can see that right here. It was at about 5.5 psi. That's working out a lot better because with this stock fuel pump, it's mechanical, and it goes to about 12-13 psi, which is way too much. And you can see I have it turned up a little bit more than halfway because it was running a little too hot last time. I think this radiator is probably a little bit too small for this truck because of how thin it is and how small it is like that way. So I've got plenty of room in between my fans still and all that, so I can probably put a bigger one in there. All the gasketing that I did in the last video worked out perfect. There's no leaks at all. I have not put new gaskets in the carbs, so there's a little bit of that going on. And I did, by the way, replace the power valve for the secondaries. It still doesn't work, but whatever. I need to get a new carb anyway. And you could probably hear when I went to show you tailpipe and how it sounds, it was kind of like every other rotation it would have a really big puff. I think that it's missing, and all that's building up in there, and then it's just burning it all up in one fire, and that's what's causing it to sound like that. And it's not very good for the vibrations either. It stops doing that at about 1,200 RPM, somewhere in there. But that'll be good soon when we get that new carburetor, probably. The only weird thing about the brake system is that this cap, like, the rubber is plenty thick, but like it leaks out, it pours out. I don't know how it's doing that, but it's coming out somehow. And the brake, or the little cover handle, is on there plenty tight, so that's a big question mark. It's leaking all over the fender well and dripping down on the driveway. I do have some new horns in it. They were like $25 on eBay. They're train horns, but they're loud enough. They're not that loud though. I looked at everything on the steering. I thought that the truck needed new bearings and stuff, but apparently they're all good. It's just the brakes are rubbing a little bit because the pads are brand new, and the brake rotors or hubs, it's all one piece, have not been resurfaced or replaced. They're only 40 bucks. But yeah, that gets really hot because it's always on. And the steering used to be very, very loose, but anytime you have a steering box, you've just basically loosened this nut, and then right here there's either a flathead groove for a flathead screwdriver or a Allen wrench. Now let me get down here more so you can see. And you just basically tighten that in a little bit anytime you've got a loose steering box. And eventually it'll come back, which I don't know if that's because the steering box is like getting hammered on, or if I didn't tighten the nut enough. But I mean, it was a like a 3-foot breaker bar, and I was down under there with that, and it was a perfect angle, and I got that pretty tight, so I don't know what's up with that. When I did all the rockers and all that stuff, new lifters, push rods, rockers, and put it back together, I broke the dipstick because the nut, it's like one of those bolts with the thread on the end for the nut, and I couldn't get that nut off because there's no way you could fit a wrench in there to keep the actual bolt from spinning out of the block. But I ended up breaking the little spot weld off of the little bracket that holds the dipstick on. That's why there's all those zip ties. But when that happened, it apparently tweaked the seal for the dipstick, since on this model the dipstick is on the side of the oil pan, not through the block. And I now have full working trailer lights. This setup can have the power brakes, electric brakes or whatever, but it doesn't have any of that set up in the cab yet, and I don't plan on pulling that big of a trailer. And the license plate lamp is working, all the running lights work, and you just have to use this guy, which is really nice. It even tells you if your connections are working right or not. It's got little LEDs in there, and it even stays in there with the lid so it doesn't pull out while you're driving. But basically the truck is fully functioning as of right now. It's not the most comfortable thing with all the timing issues and stuff, but it is very, very powerful. Not fast. It is very heavy. But as far as the rust goes and all these things with the body, I'm not really going to worry about those much yet until I really get everything sorted out with the motor. And corner panels aren't that expensive. LMC truck has them. They're less than $100 a piece. And the mirrors, these things got replaced, but they're super sketchy. Like when you have to slam the door on the passenger side, so it just keeps falling down, and it's kind of super annoying. But the only reason that the floor did ever rust out was these stupid rubber seals. They do not function very well, and it lets water in, and you can see it coming down the firewall, just rusting it out real nice. But I got those new panels put over it, so it's fine. All new seals is like $300 to $400, which is ridiculous. So I'm just gonna let it go for now.